Hello, hello, welcome. Elizabeth here. Welcome you to our wisdom journey. It's our first day. We have lots to cover. We're covering chapter 1. So let's get started. So King Solomon, chapter 1, states the purpose, who the book is for, a couple of principles that are very important. I would love if we could go verse by verse, but we would be here forever. And so I know that you've got a busy life. I've got a busy life. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cover a couple of items in this chapter that I feel are important, right? So first, I'm going to just share with you how the book of Proverbs is sort of broken down to segmented from chapters 1, verse 1 through 9. King Solomon is talking to us about introducing wisdom, introducing the concept of the fear of the Lord. From Proverbs 1 through 9, it becomes very poetic, and it's poems from his father and from Lady Wisdom. From Proverbs 10, chapter 10 through chapter 29 is a collection of ancient sayings. So all the Proverbs that we are familiar with, all of those chapters are going to cover a lot of small phrases. Then chapter 30 and 31 is the wisdom of Agur and King Lemuel's mother. Chapter 31 is a very popular chapter about women's role, what we should aspire to be. And so it's very interesting that those two chapters have quote unquote different authors. So we'll discuss that then. Kind of interesting. So that's the breakdown of the book. Now remember that we talked about in the other videos that King Solomon was visited by God in a dream, and God told him, I am going to give you this wisdom. So King Solomon had wisdom from God, and he documented it for us. So we have to remember that these words are from a loving father that wants to see us living in joy, in health, peace, wealth, all of this, so we can find our purpose, and also so we can help our family and friends and our neighbors. So I know that you have probably found yourself a couple of times in your life begging or pleading someone to make the right decision. And it wasn't because you were trying to just exert power over them. It was probably because you wanted them to avoid painful circumstances. So it's the same thing here, that God loves us. He is our Father. He wants us to avoid painful circumstances and wants us to live with joy. And wisdom is something that is critical, it's crucial for us to obtain. It's not a luxury. Like, if you guys have time, seek wisdom. It's like, this is life and death. It is crucial for us to seek wisdom, to honor God. Again, we get blessed, and everyone around us gets blessed by default. Okay, so the word Proverbs, as we know it, is like a sayings, allegory, short parables. And so that's one of the definitions. But in Hebrew, the word Proverbs is mashal. I'm not sure that's the correct pronunciation. It's M-A-S-H-A-L, mashal. And the second meaning of the word mashal in Hebrew is to rule or to have dominion. So it's like short parables to rule and to have dominion, over your life and your circumstances. There is a translation called the Passion Translation that I have learned to love. It's semi-recent. It's about maybe 10 to 12-year-old translation. And this translation brings out a lot of the Hebrew context. So I wanted just to read quickly chapter 1, verse 1 of Proverbs. It says, here are the kingdom revelations, words to live by, and words of wisdom given to empower you to reign in life, written as Proverbs by Israel's King Solomon, David's son. So here they used the Hebrew second definition of Proverbs, which is empower you to reign in life. That's really, really interesting. So Proverbs are not just, saints here and there, but they're saints to be able to rule and reign in life. And so now I'm going to continue on the New Living Translation. And I lost here my bookmarker to go over the rest of those verses. Okay, so I'll start again and I'll read again. These are the Proverbs of Solomon, David's son, king of Israel. Their purpose is to teach people wisdom and discipline, to help them understand the insights of the wise. Their purpose is to teach people to live disciplined and successful lives, to help them do what is right, just, and fair. These proverbs will give insight to the simple, knowledge and discernment to the young. Let the wise listen to these proverbs and become even wiser. Let those with understanding receive guidance. By exploring the meaning in these proverbs and parables, the words of the wise and their riddles. Fear of the Lord is the foundation of true knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and discipline. So King Solomon here is telling us that the purpose of this book is to be able to reign in life. And who is the book for? So he shares here that the Proverbs is for the simple. It seems like the simple is more like naive. So if you're naive, you need Proverbs. It's also for the young, right? So you can have knowledge and discernment. And it's also for the wise. So if you already have a lot of wisdom, it's also for you so you can become even wiser. So we should never stop learning. Always continue seeking wisdom. It doesn't matter, how long we've been living with God. So I have noticed that people have shared with me that, oh, they've been Christians for a long time and they forgot about the book of Proverbs, because you feel like, oh, the Proverbs is for, young, naive people. It says here that if you're wise, then you need to read Proverbs so you can become even more wise. So let those with understanding receive guidance. So that starts off the book of Proverbs. Who is it for? It's for all of us. Now, the only person that it's not for is for the fools. Fools despise wisdom and discipline. It's not for those that think they know it all, because that's what a fool is, right? A fool is someone that says, hey, I know it all. Don't tell me, I can do it myself. And so if you know it all, then you don't need wisdom, right? So it's not for the fools. But here, King Solomon introduces a very important principle. In verse 7, fear of the Lord is the foundation of true knowledge. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that, because what does fear of the Lord mean? So it doesn't mean to be scared of God, right? Like, oh my God, I'm so scared, terror. So it's like, if I am in terror of God, then that is the foundation of the truth. Let me see. I'm gonna quickly look at the King James version of this. The fear of the Lord. Okay, so we have the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. So do I have to fear God, be scared of him and tremble in terror? Is that the beginning of knowledge? So no. Fear in this the way it refers to it here is actually to admire God, to reverence him. And I like the way Pastor Skip Heitzig out of Albuquerque, the church Calvary, he puts it like this, what fear is. It is a reverential awe that produces humble submission to a loving God. So I'll say it again. It is a reverential awe that produces humble submission to a loving God. So it's to look at God and say, wow, you are amazing. I am not worthy. Thank you for loving me. And when you feel that love melts you. And when you melt, you build trust and you say, hey, I will follow you. I trust you. And that's where the submission comes, because you trust him, because you know he loves you. So it's not like, oh my God, I am so scared that you're going to punish me, so I am going to do this. So it's not out of fear. It's not out of like repercussion, because God's going to punish me. It's out of a relationship. Hey, I have a relationship with God. I believe that he loves me. I feel his love. And because of that, I will trust and submit to him. So when you trust and you submit, when you have that relationship, that's when you can truly start hearing from him. And that's what starts off the conversation about wisdom. Why are we reading this, right? Why are we open to this? Because we're like, hey, I want to hear what God has for me. So then we start that relationship. If we don't have a relationship, we're not interested in hearing their words. So the relationship with a God is sort of the beginning of wisdom, the relationship with God, communication with him. And we want to communicate with him because we love him and we feel his love, right? So I definitely wanted to slow down there and get that straight. We're not supposed to fear him. We're supposed to fear him in a way of reverence. All right, so then let's continue. I'm going to skip around a little bit so we can cover as much as we can, but I'm going to continue now with verse 8. My child, listen when your father corrects you. Don't neglect your mother's instructions. What you learn from them will crown you with grace and be a chain of honor around your neck. My child, if sinners entice you, turn your back on them. They may say, come and join us. Let's hide and kill someone. Just for fun, let's ambush the innocent. Let's swallow them alive like the grave. Let's swallow them whole like those who go down to the pit of death. Think of the great things we'll get. We'll fill our houses with all the stuff we take. Come throw in your lots with us. We all share the loot. My child, don't go along with them. Stay far away from their paths. They rush to commit evil deeds. They hurry to commit murder. If a bird sees a trap being set, it knows to stay away. But these people set an ambush for themselves. They are trying to get themselves killed. Such is the fate of all who are greedy for money. It robs them of life. So, a couple of things here. One, it tells us to listen to your father and your mother. So wisdom sometimes doesn't sound very attractive. It's instructions. And there's this propensity that when we hear instruction, we're just like, oh, I don't want to hear it, right? But it's important to understand, for the most part, when we receive wisdom, it's going to be instructions. And we have to learn to appreciate it, to welcome it, right? Welcome it from your family, from friends, from people that you trust when they are telling you, hey, you should do this, or giving you suggestions. So that's the way wisdom is going to appear at times, as instruction. So we have to learn to love it. And, remember in our youth, anytime our parents would say, hey, we need to talk, or your grandpa or something, was like, we would kind of cringe, like, oh. So now that I'm talking to a little bit more mature audience, let's welcome it, right? And actually seek it. Hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. What's your take on it? But make sure there are people that you trust that have the best intentions. The other thing about so we're talking about instruction, and also talking about the temptation to do evil, right? The temptation to do evil is going to entice you. So to do evil, or to stray away, or to make these type of decisions, they're going to be appealing. So instruction, not so appealing, right? Cringe. But doing other things that we shouldn't are going to look like they're good things. They're going to be enticing. So we have to be able to distinguish that, right? And actually even expect it when something sounds too good to be true. What's really going on? And then also, there's a lot of secrecy going on, right? Let's ambush. What else? It's like it's something that is very secretive. So when something comes at you, when ideas, when suggestions, any of those things come at you, look at it. Is it something open? If someone is trying to entice you to do something, but they say, hey, let's keep it on the DL or something. So that also should prompt us that, hey, this is probably not of God if I have to keep it a secret, right? And I'm going to contrast that with, we continue with chapter 20. Wisdom shouts in the streets. She cries out in the public square. 21, verse 21, she calls out to the crowds along the main streets to gather in front of her city gates. I'm going to pause real quick. So wisdom, doing the right thing, it's not going to be a secret like, hey, you should do the right thing, right? It's going to be like, hey, wisdom is there, it's personified, right, as a woman, but it's like, hey, everyone, I'm right here in the middle of the street, do the right thing, right? So I'm going to pause there to talk about, yes, Lady Wisdom. That's so interesting. I wish I had an exact answer as to why wisdom is personified as a woman. I've done some research, talked to some pastors and some theologians, and I couldn't get, a concrete answer, absolute answer. Maybe if you have some suggestions, make sure to share them with me. But here's a couple of things that I learned. One, in the Hebrew, the word wisdom has a feminine gender to it. So it's like we use in Spanish and in French, there's a feminine and masculine way of saying things. Like let's say like the word car in Spanish is carro, and when we have a O, it means it's masculine. Guitar in Spanish is guitarra, and that's feminine with an A. So words have a feminine and masculine quality to them, whereas in English, most words have they're neutral. There's no gender associated to them. So that's one thing, that the word Hebrew has that gender associated to it. It doesn't mean that it's, has to do with a woman, but the way the language is comprised is that there is a feminine and masculine gender to words. So wisdom in Hebrew has that feminine connotation. So that is one, I guess not theory, but why it can be you personified as a woman. Now, the other thing is that the Hebrew language is very poetic, and we're reading Proverbs, and Proverbs is poetry. And King Solomon loves poetry. Remember, his dad wrote the book of Psalms. And so it is also a tool of a writer. Like, how else can I get this message across? There's different tools writers use to make their writing engaging. And so personifying wisdom as a woman, maybe with these attractive traits, may appeal to the reader versus just something neutral, right? And I think it works because we're talking about it now, and it's very interesting, right? It kind of just sucks you in. And the other thing is that in the chapters where wisdom is personified as a woman, there's certain characteristics that just tend to be characteristics of a woman, of the home life, providing, nurturing, just different things that women tend to do. So it just makes it easy to associate those as hey, wisdom has those feminine traits. But it's for everyone, right? It's neutral. It's for men and women to just learn from. I did read that there may be a connection with, some other fables and stories like Greek mythology outside of the Bible, that there is a goddess of wisdom. And I think I saw a name like Sophia or something like that. So there's a couple of things, right, that maybe King Solomon was inspired by that to use it, though, as a writing tool, a writing strategy or element. So that's what I got for you in regards to Lady Wisdom. Oh yeah, and there's one other example is that, again, like King Solomon, using these different tools to get us to engage into this book, is that he personifies wisdom as a woman, virtuous woman. And then he also talks a lot about, a non-virtuous woman. And we're going to dive into it, right? Because it's very interesting. So then it just makes it easier for him to use all the characteristics of a virtuous woman, and then the characteristics of a non-virtuous woman. It's a little bit more engaging than if he would have used men and their virtuous qualities and their non-virtuous qualities. So I don't know exactly. I hope that just, makes it a little bit more interesting as we're talking about wisdom personified as a woman. All right, so let's continue. I am going to now read verse 22. So how long, you simpletons, will you insist on being simple-minded? How long will you mockers relish your mocking? How long will you fools hate knowledge? Come and listen to my counsel. I'll share my heart with you and make you wise. I call you so often, but you wouldn't come. I reached out to you, but you paid no attention. You ignored my advice and rejected the correction I offered. So I will laugh when you are in trouble. I will mock you when disaster overtakes you, when calamity overtakes you like a storm, when disaster engulfs you like a cyclone, and anguish and distress overwhelms you. When they cry for help, I will not answer. Though they anxiously search for me, they will not find me. For they hated knowledge and chose not to fear the Lord. They rejected my advice and paid no attention when I corrected them. Therefore, they must eat the bitter fruit of their living their own way, choking on their own schemes. For simpletons turn away from me to death. Fools are destroyed by their own complacency. But all who listen to me will live in peace, untroubled by fear of harm. I really like that last verse. All right. So when you listen to wisdom, what does it yield in your life? It yields peace, untroubled by fear of harm. I love that. I specifically like the word peace. I mean, do we not need more peace in this world? So when we listen to wisdom, we will have peace. When we don't listen to wisdom, just read it, we will have chaos in our lives. All right, friends, well, that covers chapter 1. We covered a lot of principles, and I think there were some very interesting principles, and chapters just will continue to get more and more engaging. So now what you want to do is think about what we covered, meditate on it. Is there something that you learned? How can you apply it to your life? Something that I said that resonates, something that you learned. Definitely share with me what you learned and something that you wish, we would have covered. So definitely want to be hearing from you as well. All right. So that is it for today. Let's